Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Just detailing now the 12 tyrants. And we were down to the last of the 12. Fred Upton of Michigan, been there since 1986. He squeezed out Joe Barton of Texas to become the head of the Energy and Commerce Committee. So this is a bought and paid for friend of the lobbyists. His political mentor was David Stockman, the budget-cutting austerity fiend of the Reagan administration. So there you have it. And the obvious thing about these 12 tyrants is that the Republicans are ideologically, fanatically solid, whereas with the Democrats, you look at Baucus and Kerry in particular, and quite possibly Clyburn and maybe Van Hollen. These are people who are going to follow orders, or they're going to seek the illusory, wretched, bipartisan mirage, this chimera that the media talk about, the bipartisan compromise, where the loss of the necessities of the poor are equated with a slight reduction in the super luxuries of the super rich. In other words, a poor person who has to skip a meal is equated to the rich parasite who has 3 Learjets instead of 4, or some other thing. This insanity, and Obama, more than anybody else, Obama has promoted that kind of moral insanity. So here's what it is. These characters have to come forward by around the time of Thanksgiving with $1.5 trillion of cuts. If they don't agree, if there's not a defection, in other words, if none of these Democrats go over, if it goes to 6-6, they're deadlocked, they will have no recommendation, then that will mean that the axe falls on the Pentagon in ways which the general idea of reducing the spending of the Pentagon is a good idea, but don't do it across the board, because there are high technology assembly lines that need to be reconverted into aerospace. If this country is going to have a future, you can't run amok with the Pentagon budget unless you've got your aerospace alternatives ready to go, so you make the seamless transition. Because once those assembly lines and those trained people are gone, they're gone, and you are becoming a banana republic, a third world backwater or ethnographic material. The other side of it is the axe, the guillotine will fall on provider payments in Medicare. We condemn the Democratic Party for their choices of these 12 of the 6 tyrants that they control. We reject all of them. And we also reject Obama's willingness to put Medicare provider payments on the block. He's not content with the $500 billion that he gouged out of Medicare in the previous year. He's back attacking Medicare again this year. And the other thing I would condemn with Obama is this constant harping on a 2% cut in the Social Security payroll tax, treating that as stimulus. He is attempting to attack the financial solvency and solidity of Social Security itself. And this entire policy must be loudly rejected. So that will now be your fare between Thanksgiving and Christmas. The Grinch, but this time it's the 12 Grinches. It's the 12 Grinches in the form of the 12 austerity ghouls or the 12 tyrants. Now, out of this grows a clear danger to the future of representative government and democracy, and we'll dedicate some segments to this now. Let's look at the the Washington Post poll of August 11th, Thursday. Sinking confidence in Washington's ability to deal with the economy. How satisfied are you with the way this country's political system is working? August 2011, very satisfied 2%, mostly satisfied 19%, total 21%. Dissatisfied, mostly unsatisfied 33%, very unsatisfied 45%, 78% not happy at all. That's a shift of 15 points compared to November of 2009. Do you think the federal government is mostly focused on the right things? Right now it's 19% say on the right things, the wrong things, 71%. Same kind of figure. We're looking at 70 to 80% heavy-duty disaffection. One pollster this week, Cadell, former Carter guru, has called this pre-revolutionary. Well, pre-revolutionary, bring it on, but pre-revolutionary doesn't mean a bunch of dupes in the square. It doesn't mean a bunch of looters and anarchists yelling, "Burn, baby, burn." Revolution means leadership, organization, and above all, program. The program is the most important of the three. And take a look at that 5-point program and stay tuned for the last segment. We'll talk some more about program there. So you get the idea. Who is to blame? Obama and the Democrats, 30%. Republicans in Congress, 30%. Both 32. Neither 6. No opinion 2. The right track, wrong track is also a disaster. You get the idea. Now, there's a danger. In February 1933, because of the impotence of the Congress, which in those days came into session in January. So under Herbert Hoover, in January, February, and into March of 1933, there was a growing fascist tide in the United States. Mussolini had been in power for a dozen years. Hitler had just seized power in Germany, and people were thinking maybe that's what's going to happen to the United States also in the Depression. Now, fortunately, we found a competent president in the form of Franklin D. Roosevelt. There was no fascist regime in the United States, but this was not guaranteed. The disgust with Washington, the lack of confidence, the hatred, and the resentment is primarily the result of reactionaries running wild, but also of the betrayals, repeated betrayals by Obama. So now we've got the 12 tyrants, and they're going to be deciding your future. That list of 12 tyrants that we went through, they'll be deciding your life and death, because the Medicare provider payments mean precisely that. It means the solvency of hospitals, not just for people above 65, but for all. The independents are ranting about bipartisanship and compromise. I think based on the budget deal from March, April, as I've said, riots in the United States, we've still got about another 2 or 3 weeks of summer, and in this kind of a climate, we could have riots here on the London model, and we'll tell you a little bit about what the London model actually was. I think what you've got in the United States is the danger of yet another version of a color revolution. Remember, the Obama campaign had a lot of the techniques of the color revolution. The Tea Party had quite a few techniques of the color revolution. What's the danger now? If you have discussed with traditional party politics, traditional politicians, party hacks, Washington, the Congress, governors are also widely hated. Don't forget them. What's the danger? How about a man on horseback? How about General Petraeus? How about a general who comes in and says, I'm not a politician, I'm above party, I'm an American, I'm a patriot, I will do what's right, I'll use military methods to solve the problem. Remember that General Petraeus is now the perfect Bonapartist. He combines the Pentagon, where he spent his career, the Army, with the CIA, where he is now ensconced. Joe Klein of Time putting out a puff piece on the genius of Petraeus in Time magazine this week, the one that's got the fall of Europe, the collapse of Europe inside that issue. They love Petraeus. Back in a minute.